Back to order. There is nothing to report from closed session. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so just FYI, Craig is leaving tonight at 7:30, and so we are hoping to get through our meeting by then. And today is National Family Day, and I know we all have families that are important to us, so hooray for the families. And let's move to board agenda approval. I'd like a motion, please.
We actually have some changes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So as noted, we did pull one item already from closed session.
Right, 3.2.
The litigation one.
Right.
And then 12.2 we'll be pulling, which is the sufficiency of instructional materials. As we do have a few schools where some materials actually did not show up, and so we don't want to bring that until we have actually completed all that, hoping next time maybe. Yeah, we think we'll be all caught up by next meeting. Okay. And I think, was that everything we were pulling, everybody?
Okay, so we need a motion for the board agenda as changed.
So I move to adopt the agenda submitted by Dr. Baker.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Communication from employee organizations. Do we have anyone to speak? Kai, are you going to talk to us tonight? No? Anybody else here from employee organizations? Okay, good. Thank you. Public comment. We have one person to speak under public comment, and just a reminder, the board will not respond to anything under public comment. You have 3 minutes, and Dana has a very obnoxious sounding something that will signal when your 3 minutes are up. So we have one person tonight, and that is Leslie Williams. Yes, would you go to the podium, please? Thank you.
Don't start yet. I got to change my glasses. Excuse me. Can I bring it lower? Thank you. Okay, ready. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address this meeting. My name is Leslie Williams, and I'm a parent of Montclair Elementary School, and I'm here with my fellow parents to represent the Montclair community and the larger community of CUSD. We are here to respectfully request that CUSD immediately stops using the pesticide glyphosate on our campuses. The American Academy of Pediatrics says that there is no safe level of pesticide exposure for children. Pesticides are toxic chemicals, poisons created to kill. Children are often more susceptible to the toxic effects of pesticides than adults. They take in more pesticides relative to body weight and have developing organ systems that are more vulnerable and less able to detoxify these chemicals. In addition, the likelihood of developing cancer is greater if exposure occurs early in life, since cancer develops over time. Last week, on Friday, September 20th, the Montclair campus was sprayed with quick-throw herbicide Roundup, whose main ingredient is glyphosate. Although there was no school on that day, the staff was still present and the CDC was open with children playing outside. Pesticides don't stay in the place where they are sprayed. They move around on the air, they are picked up on clothes and shoes, they find their way onto hands and into mouths. Young children inadvertently bring them into their homes and classrooms. We like to think our kids are safe in their classrooms, sitting on the carpet during circle time, but pesticides, once brought indoors on shoes, thank you, have been shown to persist in indoor carpet fibers for up to a year. According to the schedule and the CUSD opening day packet, the next spraying at Montclair will be on the weekend of October the 12th. We respectfully ask that glyphosate is not sprayed over that weekend or at any other time. We also ask for clarity over exactly where the glyphosate is being sprayed. According According to the CUSD annual pesticide notification, Roundup can be used in school fields and agricultural areas. Yet Pat King, Director of Maintenance and Ground Operation, has said the fields are not sprayed, but the dirt areas and fence line are. We would like to know exactly what this means. Kids at Montclair, like all kids everywhere, play in the dirt. They even have a special name for it. They call it Cabin Club. They also play up by the fences, hiding behind the bushes and crawling around making camps. We are requesting a detailed map of exactly where is being sprayed with glyphosate so that we can take steps to ensure our children's safety. But avoiding the areas where these carcinogens have been sprayed is not the solution. The solution is not to spray them at all. Our students, staff, and maintenance workers deserve to learn and thrive at school without being put at unnecessary risk. How can we say we are doing the best for our kids and community when we are spraying a known carcinogen into the environment? We can and must do better. We strongly urge you to follow the lead of neighbouring school districts, including Los Altos and Sunnyvale, and stop the use of glyphosate in and around our schools. Please cancel the spraying scheduled for October the 12th and join us in banning the use of glyphosate across the entire CUSD district. Thank you for your
Leslie.
time.
So we have do we have anything on Apple this time? I don't think so.
we don't.
We have consent items 9.1 through 9.7, 9.8. Is there a motion?
I can move 9.1 through 9.8 on consent.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Discussion items. The first one is board policies related to facility use, partnerships, revenue enhancement, and cost recovery.
And you all received my message about our change of intent on this one for the, right now. Did you get my, I sent a message out about some changes in what we're doing, but Jeff will explain it to you anyway, in case you didn't
good.
see it.
All right, good evening. I'm going to start off with the mic, and we'll see if it gets any better with this. Not, I'm going to put it down and maybe grab your lapel, Craig, if it goes.
Okay.
Just big picture with it is, for the past year, we've talked about our use of our facilities. We've talked about revenue enhancement in our strategies as a district to increase our own funds and have control over our ability to raise revenue and cost recovery as a district. And so this item, when it was put on, was our first step in that direction and getting us aligned on a strategy district-wide. And any strategy that we put forward really needs to be rooted in board policy, in our practices, and us establishing that practice. And so tonight's not so much about getting into the details about these board policies, but I think the bigger picture of understanding how policies tie together that then in turn could allow us as a staff and with Cooper-Doodle and our facilities program to best utilize our facilities and give us that flexibility to have really good partnerships and to take a look at those partnerships that we establish as a district. And so the big thing is our system that we have right now is very rigid. We have an external use permit process, and we have our leasing process. So we, as the board knows, and we've spoken about our lease sites that we have at our board advance and how we lease those out to various partners in the area and what we bring in money-wise off of those lease sites. We also have our external use permit as a district that allows us to rent out our facilities over the summer or to have CDC, our YMCA programs, the teen center that you guys approved the contract of with the city of Cupertino. So those types of programs, there's a charge for based on the use and based on a tiered system. I don't want to go into detail too much on the tiered system. It's on our external use permit. That's on our website. But picture really 5 tiers, and those tiers are associated with payments. They range from a recovery that actually isn't a true recovery. It's just a minor cost recovery, all the way up that would be considered an enhanced cost recovery. So it's closer to market rate, but not quite market rate. And so what we want to be able to move forward with or to bring back to you is not only a new fee structure, but a new approach that allows our Cooper-Doodle program as well as our facility program to engage in these partnerships and have a list of preferred vendors, so to speak, for our schools. So as Leslie and her team have been able to do is they've started surveying the sites. What are the programs that particular school is interested in bringing to their campus? And then for us to go out and create that partnership with that program potentially where there's either a revenue share all the way to a cost recovery or enhanced cost recovery with it. And so again, I would like to get some guidance from the board if that's the type of approach you would like us to pursue. If it is, what we'd like to do is come back with our Cooper Doodle team, facilities, and then with budget advisory to go into more detail about what our approach would look like, how the policies align together. And then the last thing is, as this board does know, all of our policies are interweave with each other. So you have board policies and admin regulations. It's not about a single policy, but it's collectively, how do those policies help us do the work that we need to do every day? And so these 7 up here, the 5 board policies and the 2 admin regulations are examples of the policies that I think we need to update in order for us to adjust our approach. And so with that, I'll take any questions. Craig, I don't know if you have anything to add to it.
I do just want to add that we reached out to legal counsel, and they had actually a really thorough, nice set of opinions and recommendations for us to consider. And we didn't really have enough time, Jeff and I, to go over them thoroughly. And my thought was that Jerry and Lori, as budget advisory committee members, could sit down with me and Jeff, go through those recommendations and thoughts. It's more than that's considerations from them, and then review these together as well, so that when we bring it back, they're not just a set of policies, but they're with some tweaks to them to say, in order for us to maximize our ability to utilize our facilities to maximize dollars coming in. That's what we're trying to do, is how do we do that, but never give up on our number one priority as kids and programs for children. And of course, we would never charge for our programs for kids. So it's actually challenging to think about how you do your policies to make sure you get to do all of those things at once. And so my recommendation is that we ask the committee to come together, but not the whole committee, but just as a subgroup, and we'll work it through one time and then bring it back to you all as a discussion item.
Board members, questions or comments for Craig or Jeff? Jerry?
I'll go ahead and start. Microphone's on. So I thank you, Jeff, for the presentation. I really like the direction this is going. I think this gives us a lot more options going forward in how we maximize the utility of our assets and such. I guess the main question I had is, I want to understand a little better about the intent. Because in that last sentence there, you talk about a potential partner with high quality vendors, right? So in the past, these would be folks that would be leasees, I guess, people who lease our facilities. And so the term vendor, are we thinking that these folks, just at a high level, are we thinking maybe we'll run a set of Cooper Doodle schools, and some of which might be fulfilled by partners, and that's why you're using the word vendor? Because since we're collecting money from them, normally you would think of them as customers, right? Because they're renting stuff from us. But now you've used the term vendor a few times, so just wanted to understand better the intent here. Is that, do you see them as potential business partners, I guess, going forward in the future?
Absolutely. I think we want to move from a vendor approach where you have someone come in from the outside, they need a facility, it feels very flat in that respect. Right. Versus a partner approach where we're saying, hey, this is our strategic plan as a district. Here's what this school community would like to have on the campus. Let's go out, Michelle, Derek, who here, and Leslie, let's go out and find those partners and bring them into us because they meet the standard that we have, and bring that quality that we're approving of, that quality, and sharing that with our families here.
Okay, right. I like that approach very much. I think that aligns basically our incentives with their incentives, right? It's not like we rent it to you at $225 a square foot and you do whatever we want with it. But I think we both win when we serve the community more. So very much like the direction we're going here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? I would just like to say that I'm happy with the suggestion for Jerry and Lori to pursue this with Jeff and Craig and come back to us with something a little more concrete. Are you all sort of in agreement with that? Yeah. Okay. I think that's good.
Great.
Thank you, Jeff. 10.2, priorities and measures of success. Craig?
Yeah.
No, Allison? Somebody?
Are you you got this? Oh. Okay. No. It's all you. I will chime in, of course.
Okay, so we've been working on district priorities for a few meetings now, knowing that our strategic plan is our big picture vision, and then we have our LCAP, which is our implementation plan, and also our SIPSAs, which provide additional details on our implementation at the school sites. And we've been talking about how we set district priorities each year, knowing that at any given moment we're doing lots and lots of things all across those documents and beyond, but that we want to set some targets so that we can hang on to this year. So when we get to the end of the year, we can assess how we did as an organization towards those larger targets that are captured in the other documents. So we captured some feedback from you at our last meeting, and we are bringing back some revisions for you to consider and provide additional feedback on tonight. Overall, in the individual feedback sessions since posting, we've heard that all in all, this format seems to be clearer, overall better, easier to follow. The level of clarity on the measures has improved, we think, since the last discussion. The one piece that we know we do need to continue to make revisions on is under priority 2. This is the priority that says maximize financial and human resources. It's about making CUSD the place to be. We know that we want to broaden how this is framed. This one, right now, it's calling out staff and making CUSD the place to work. But in thinking about this, we know that our staff is such a tremendous asset to what we do here in the district, but also our whole community more broadly is really important to helping us move forward. So thinking more broadly about making CUSD the place to learn and grow and partner in support of our kids. So we're thinking that we'll reframe that just to broaden it, knowing staff's a piece, but also our parents and community partners, how our kids feel about their experience in school. All of those things are important when we think about making CUSD the place to be. So I thought we could go through each of the priority areas and see if you had any other additional feedback to offer as we're trying to finalize this.
I do, if I could, I want to add the first bullet in the measure for district priority 2, and Jerry pointed this out. The first, at the very end, it says outlining agreements to enhance revenue is actually something that should have been removed, because if your comments before were, this is really more about building the community will and ownership, et cetera, which we're hoping will coalesce in an MOU across all of those groups, et cetera, and the money is not a measure of success for us at this moment in time. It's building it, right? So that should just come off where it says outlining agreements. And we already say above, we'll have MOUs that outline the agreements of the district and each side, et cetera. So that was redundant. It should not have been there. And then we also know that, and I think several of you mentioned this to me, that in this area then, and to Allison's point about it's not just about staff, it's more than that, but that we really need to measure through surveys somehow all of our community partners, students themselves, and staff about this question about how are we doing in making this the place, are we in it together? Is it a great place to work? But also, is it a great place to parent and to be part and feel part of the community, et cetera? So we know we need to add a bullet around that notion of surveying more broadly, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say that with between what Allison said and these added points, that's most of what I heard from you all when meeting individually, and hopefully we haven't captured it here yet. We realize we have to go back and do it. Our hope is that with a little more feedback tonight on any or all of it, we can then probably put this together in a way where we can bring it back for approval. Yeah.
Okay, any comments or questions or?
I'll go. So one area that was a little confusing in the district priority 3, the continue to support leadership development, the red text at the top, scroll up.
The top, oh.
Because then well, I guess you could, sorry, you can scroll back down because it's connected, or the aim then talks about the SEL, the social emotional learning. And so it's a little confusing because are we talking about leadership development in students? Or are you talking about staff leadership development? Because I don't want to make a false correlation that SEL is related to leadership development.
So right here. Is this,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or I guess I wanted to know what was the, understand what was the meaning behind that.
yeah, so one of the things that we know we're already moving forward on is the development of social emotional learning at each school site. So all the schools are working on this in some way. So it's one of the tangible ways that we already know we're living out that whole child focus. And so stepping back from that, the aim is really to support that site-based leadership and helping that work move along, knowing that that's common to all schools. So the goal is around the kids' competency in social emotional learning and well-being. But what we're trying to do is really empower our sites with tools and resources and collaboration time to keep that work moving forward.
Yeah, and I would say that we're, just to explain the thought process as we develop this, because it's so many iterations back. And it started with what is really critical within the strategic plan on which we need to make progress. And we said, well, certainly personalized learning and the development of the whole child, that's so huge within it. But then as we talked about it more, we realized that we're just not in a place, we're not far enough along to talk about the outcomes, student outcomes relative to those things. We just don't have things in place to do that. And then when we asked ourselves, so what is truly, if we just step back and say, what do we really need to work on? We need to support, especially the principals at the sites, but also emerging teacher leadership around these areas and help them to be able to lead the efforts. So our measure just for this year, right, this is a year or no more than two, it is to say, let's give them the toolkit, let's build that and support their leadership development to be able to move the agenda in these areas. That's our main focus right now, rather than the actual outcome for students, even though really that's what we want. That's what's in our LCAP for measures. That's what's in our SIPSAs, right? So we do address those, but as an organization, we said, let's really focus on that notion of building leadership and giving them the tools and skills to be able to lead that effort.
Would it be more clear to kind of rephrase that as continue to provide leadership support if we're talking about providing like the toolkit? Or I guess when I think leadership development, I think like if we're talking about staff, teachers, principals, that there's some sort of professional development course or something that we're doing here, whereas it's just, I don't know, it's hard to connect it back to the SEL. Am I the only one that's reading it that way?
No, I had trouble with the same one. Go ahead.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, that it could just be made a little more specific and clear in the way I described it there about what are we trying to do. We're trying to build the toolkits and and give them the support and learning and training or whatever around these areas.
Right, like if it's training specifically for whatever, for Soul Shop or for those, is that what we're talking about more? Like the resources and the training so that those teachers and those staff can implement the SEL things at their campuses?
No, I think more directly it's for school, it's a huge shift to really embrace the notion of a personalized learning approach. It isn't something any of us schools, educational institutions are not really geared up to do. And so there's just a lot of leadership that you have to have around how do we do that as a team? How do we collaborate? Do we have a professional learning community that is saying, how are we going to get better at doing this when there aren't a lot of models out there to do it, right? There's just a lot of development of leadership and how do we do this work. And we're recognizing that we're not wanting to go in and say, here's what you're going to do. We're not buying a program and telling everybody you will all implement that program. That's a different thing. This is, how do we build that community here? How do we work together? And our view is that there are a lot of people saying, yeah, we would love to learn more about how do we even lead that effort? How do we move? How do we engage in the movement of the district in where a strategic plan is pushing on something that has not been at the core of everything we do. So I just want to be clear, it really was, that's what I'm saying, we really, from where you were talking right now, we kind of kept backing up a little bit and said, but honestly, at the end of the day, in terms of a priority, this year, what do we want to, at the end of the day, say, that was a great year because we really built what? And our view was, it's that leadership development, and people feel confident now in moving the school forward as a unit, the school community, the entire school community. So maybe we can make that clear, but that was the real aim, and I think the clear thought in our mind of what we need to do this year as a staff.
Does that clear it up for you, Sylvia?
It clears up what the intention is. I don't think that, I think we need to rework the phrasing so that matches what the intention is, I guess.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah.
So maybe that's something you can give a little more thought to and send us ideas on that, then we can play around with that for next time.
Sure.
Bring back.
Yeah.
Lori, you look like you.
So I'll piggyback on that. I think where I started to maybe lose my way through this one, the third one a little bit, was in, I totally hear what you're saying about the shift and about the leadership capacity. I think there's going to be a huge component here that is community learning. It's going to be our families and our parents learning along with. And I don't know that I see sort of in our aim and in our measures that we're bringing our community along with us as a part of that. And it feels like if our leadership is going there, we need to be communicating that that's where we're going so that people understand sort of what those practical differences may look like on our campuses. So I don't know if there's a measure in there that's a communication measure, or if there's I feel like if we're going to be shifting the way that we're asking our leaders to lead, then we need a piece that helps our community understand where we're going with that in sort of real time at the school sites for what might be changing, if things are changing, assuming things are changing over that year.
So the two things that come to mind to me are that, number one, maybe we want to start this one off with being about, because personalized learning and the development of the whole child are so critical to our new strategic plan, put that up front in a way, we will build the capacity of our staffs to continue implementation or something like that, right? Because then we can sub to that. That's leadership, that's toolkits, that's et cetera.
And I guess communication is one of those.
And then I'm saying then we could have a communication one
Okay.
on a measure side
That
of it.
I can conceptualize a little better. Yes.
And I think that pattern is one you could think about for all these priorities. I noticed the wording tends to be, we have an action and to get to some result. But the issue here is the action that's listed isn't necessarily the only action, right? In this case, communication and other things could be there. So if we give some thought to sort of phrasing that so that it doesn't come off, because I think that third one for me is really about personalized learning and social emotional, and site leadership is a means to get to the end, but that's not the end. The end is those two things.
Right.
So I guess I will concur with both the comments here on item 3, just in terms
Right,
of
so that's interesting. So we could even just make it simply continue to make progress toward personalized learning and development of the whole child. Now we can move over to the aim. One of our aims is to develop leadership. It's also to build a toolkit, which is there, right there. So that sounds like more of the aim. You're saying it's an action in a way, or more tactical in that way. Okay. Yeah.
I think as I'm looking at it again, it could even be as simple as changing it to, provide leadership development to support the early implementation of a personalized whole child approach
Right.
to learning.
Right, but again, I would
right?
still say providing that does sound to me a little more of an aim that we have, right? It's more action-oriented.
Yeah.
That the whole thing is really about continue to make progress in these areas because it's so critical to the strategic plan. We want to see some real evidence of that. Then we can move over to the next column. What we mean by that is support the development of leadership development to do, and to do what you just said as well, right? So. That would be my recommendation because it does make it crisply about the personalized learning, but not measuring the outcome necessarily. That's not where we are yet, but it is a good year for us to start developing baseline data that now we can start having more student outcome measures.
So it sounds to me like we have some action items around this. You're going to go back and play with the wording, and Sylvia, you're going to think about some ways that you're going to make suggestions.
I just made my suggestion.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other for us on this?
Any other comments
I
on
had
this
number
one?
2, but I think you addressed it with your opening comments when you and I were talking in pre-board about the top bullet under district priority 2 about MOUs with, and you said it's
Yeah.
less about enhancing revenue, but I think you and I talked about making sure that the focus there is really on the community and building the coalition and the community there. So, but I don't know if there's a way we can specifically call that out in that, in the wording of that measure.
I think we'll do it by adding a new bullet that talks about how we're going to measure the engagement and the, that will, in multiple ways, yeah.
I had a comment also, just
Okay.
picking up on number 2 and what Allison shared at the end in your commentary, Craig. Well, actually, before I get there, I just want to say I really like this chart. I think I've always wanted something like this to go from elements of the strategic plan down to measures we have. So, I hadn't asked for it explicitly, but I think in my mind I was hoping to see something like this. So thank you very much. This is I saw this, I was very happy. This is exactly the kind of the format I think in expressing this, because that takes us from something abstract to something that's measurable. So, the comment that you made about also measuring community engagement, I think that's one that's very important for me, this whole notion of community building and family engagement. And so I almost wonder if that should be a 4th priority. And the reason is, when I read the second one in its current state, it's very much about addressing our financial state and the things we have to do there. And if we and so addressing the financial situation and community building may end up using similar mechanisms, but they're 2 very different goals. And so in my mind, I would want to have them separate, I think, almost, just because when you look at these high-level goals, so it doesn't get blurred. They may end up really built about engaging the community and bringing in resources and building that capacity for us to bring in more in here, right? And that can help with both the financial part of it, as well as, say, parental and family engagement. And so just because they share the same mechanism, I'll just float that out there for you to think about whether or not those are really, it's another goal in its own right, as opposed to
A priority, another priority.
A priority, maybe a priority number 4.
And
so,
if I pressed you a little bit,
Sure.
could you frame a sentence or so? It doesn't have to be anything great, but like
Sure.
a kind of, what might it sound like, basically?
What might it sound like? Also, stream of consciousness type things. I see 2 parts. One is community building, and what that means. I think what Jeff was presenting, a big part is that it's basically involving more people, bringing resources in the community to come to act on the district, right? Because I talk to folks, and they have kids. So like us parents were very involved, and once your kids have gone through the district, you're sort of interested in what's going on, but you're not as involved as much. And I see this partnership board policy that Jeff's putting together that has a potential of bringing folks that may have been CUSD parents in the past back into being more engaged with that, right? So I think there's an element there. I think there's an element of just tapping into, again, in some of these board policy proposals, private sector and other sort of resources. And then there's another part about family engagement. So I was reading, so that the Department of Education actually puts out this little guide called Family Engagement Framework. And I actually thought it was really well done. It talks about the different disciplines that's involved in engaging families. What are the different practices that support these disciplines? And then different maturity levels along those. And I thought I got a lot of good ideas there. So I don't know if I have one sentence for you, but I think it's about, part of it's about communication, two-way communication, and not necessarily just not necessarily family to district, but really amongst family themselves, right? So that's how you build a community when people start talking. I think one part of it is around education. Yeah, I think so this is a district where we have a lot of parents from, all over the world, right? And people come here. And then I see on, for instance, places like WeChat, all sorts of interesting questions as people come into kindergarten. What do I bring? Do I need to bring any money? That sort of thing. And I think, we talked about CUSD 25. We talked about wanting to build a new culture of this district as an identity, right? So I think there's something in there about some parent education on just helping some of these folks that may be new to the district, or even to the country, the public school system in the United States, on what to expect. This is what you can expect from the schools. These are things you cannot expect. What kind of questions should you be asking teachers? I remember the first time I went to one of those, in the third week of school parent-teacher conference. I had no idea. I'm sitting there. They go, everything's going great. Do you have any questions? Well, no. What should I be asking? Right? And so I think some of those kinds of things are what kind of pulls people into the schools. So I don't know. You wanted something short. I gave you a 5-minute answer.
I was going to say that was a little more than a sentence.
Yeah, we'll just call it Jerry's priority and call it a day.
Yes, sorry.
And we'll show this video. So what I would, let us think about that. How about that? And I'm gathering that within our LCAP, there are things around engagement, like you're describing, that we could pull into a succinct priority, which also will have a measure already associated with it. So maybe we could, and whether it's part of, honestly, to some degree, what you described is somewhat tied to the notion of maximizing human resource.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we meant. So it overlaps actually a lot, what you're saying, and building that community, which is a lot of what this is. So I don't know if it's actually better to have it separate and just having that be a part of an action, but I think it's worth the exercise of what if we were to develop a separate goal, priority, what would that look like? We could bring that, but we could also play around with this wording also and say, and if we embedded it here, this is what it looks like, and then we can talk about what makes most sense.
Sure.
And can I piggyback off what you just said in that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the state is changing some aspects of the template of the LCAP to include a more parent-friendly version of that engagement piece anyway, right? So we may be able to build a goal around, if we're doing that work anyway, we may be able to build something around that.
I do want to point out that there's never been a year when we have done the same thing with an LCAP since its inception. But yes, I understand that as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so there will be a new template, and also last year's PAC DLAC group brought up a lot of those things, Jerry, that you were raising. So we did write some of that into the LCAP specifically around how are we welcoming our new families in the district, and let's share some of those practices that are really working across sites so that we're having that feeling of bringing people into the family, the CUSD family. So yeah, I think that's on our minds. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll work on that.
Anything else on priorities? Board members? Okay, I think we're good to move on to 10.3, board policy, school-sponsored trips. Leslie.
So this is a first read, and really all I want to do is bring your attention to what is in front of you. So you've got the first page of this proposed revision with some additional revisions that were brought to me today. So I wanted to share with you the thinking on that. So what you'll see, I left it the red line like it normally is, and anything I added, I've highlighted. So the suggestion was, instead of saying, I think it was band, school band activities, to broaden that and have it be artistic and musical programs to include extracurricular and co-curricular activities. The point of this policy is really actually to change the language that is on the second page, that it's a law that went into effect in 2017. Before, you could not use district funds for kids to participate in field trips to another state, District of Columbia, foreign country. But this new law basically states you can. We tend to not do that. We tend to use, it's seldom that we'll use school funds to send students on excursions. Most of our families donate in order for students to participate. So it's a first read, thoughts, suggestions, and direction for the next meeting.
Comments on this one?
I was,
Oh, please.
well, no,
Member, please go
I was
ahead.
just going to say I was comfortable with it, so I'm
I am
fine
too.
with it.
So Jerry,
I
go
was
ahead.
just saying I'm happy with it, so.
Sylvia, Satish, anything?
It's fine.
All good? Okay.
Back on consent
Can it
next
come
time?
back on consent?
Okay.
Great.
Okay. All right, discussion action, recommendation for adoption of instructional materials, grade 5, human growth and development. I think we have Allison again.
Do.
Okay. All right, hello. So we've been on this journey, and tonight we're hoping that you will take action to officially adopt both Positive Prevention Plus and Puberty Talk so that we can implement the choice-based model that we've been discussing over the last few meetings. And in addition to that, I wanted to clarify how we're planning to identify parent choices and also our plans for program monitoring in this innovative model that we're working towards. So we've been having this evolving discussion, and I've been sharing this at our parent information meetings, and it's been actually really fun just talking about how we went through this very rigorous process last year, and one of the most important things we learned is that it was important, and it is important to our community that we offer choice and that we didn't land on just one curriculum, even though that's usually the trajectory. So we've been sharing that at our community meetings. In terms of our fifth graders this year, we've sent them a communication around back to school time. We sent another communication after the last board meeting as we were watching that choice model evolve in our discussion. And we held 8 parent information meetings. We held 8 parent information meetings over the month of September. We had 848 RSVPs. Some people were attending both events, so we're not exactly sure how many individuals attended, but 848 out of approximately 1,700 fifth grade students and their families. And so tonight I wanted to just give you a little more information and then get any questions or comments from you and see if we're ready to take action to adopt the curriculum. So one of the things we don't know is exactly how much it will cost yet, because really we need to collect the information on parent choices first. We don't know how many binders we'll need or how many sections of each course. We feel confident that we'll be able to accommodate whatever comes up in the choice forms. And once we collect parent choices and we would assign teachers to courses, we would determine how many binders we needed to order and which teachers would attend which trainings. We have our publishers on hold for our training dates, beginning on the November Learning Day, and then some options later in the year, trying to give that maximum flexibility to the teachers in their planning for the year. So one of the pieces of feedback that we heard was regarding how the choice form was laid out for parents. So we're thinking that if we're ready to move forward after tonight, we would send out a communication summarizing where we are and kind of giving the parents that heads up of the choice form coming so that they will know to look for it in their inbox. And to really make sure that we're living out that commitment to a choice model in the way that we're laying out the form. So on the one that we posted originally, it was a vertical list. And so we thought maybe stretching it out this way would clarify that all the choices are equal school. There's not one that's better than another. It would really help us live out that commitment to the choice. So we would send out that summary of where we are and then send the choice form via a second email. We're hoping that if we're ready after tonight to do that, that we would be able to do that during the month of October, because we know that conference week is kind of a prime time for following up on anything that parents may have questions about, or making sure that we're getting responses from families. Our principals had a professional development session with the publishers. They have lots of information that they can share with families. So we've been encouraging families to go to their principals if they have additional questions, or if they couldn't attend the parent information sessions. All the materials and the slides from the meetings are in the offices, so everybody has a chance to take a look at that if they weren't able to attend. Okay, so I think that really is, we're almost to the end here. In terms of monitoring how this approach has gone for the year, we reviewed this at the last meeting, and I've been talking about it at the parent information sessions, that idea that we really want to know how it feels for our parents as we get through into spring and the lessons are happening. We want to know what their experience was like as a parent. Did they feel supported to make a choice that was right for their family? Did they attend any of the parent information sessions? Is there anything else that they want us to know about how this went for their child or for their family this year? So we'll have kind of that open comments box at the end and be able to report out on the things that we laid out here for program monitoring. I think overall it's been really fun to do the parent information sessions, and I think I'm getting the sense that parents feel very supported with the choice-based model, and there are some challenges in terms of understanding the differences between the two and how we can clarify that. I think we can address that through our communications. We have a chart that shows day 1, puberty talk, day 2, puberty talk, and then going down the list 1 through 6, side by side, what are the specific topics that will be taught. So we've told parents, don't worry, you don't have to remember everything we're telling you. We're going to give you the chart. You can always visit your school office if you need to check back on something that was on your mind, and that seems to be helping people feel comfortable. So, what questions do you have?
Okay, I think we've discussed this a lot. I think I'm going to call for a motion, and then if we have any discussion after the motion and second, we'll take care of that. So is there a motion to adopt the instructional materials, grade 5, human growth and development?
I move to adopt both PT and PPP for 5th grade human growth and development as recommended by the staff.
All right, and is there a second?
I know that motion is complete, or I think you just said that both, and the third one you didn't say, right? Or is that motion complete or no? Choice one of this or?
No, so the motion is to adopt both of these, right? Your job as a board is to adopt curriculum. Mm-hmm. And so with an understanding that it's a choice program essentially for those curricula. So right now on the table is the motion to adopt both of them, as those are officially adopted.
To district curriculum for grade 5.
A second?
I will second. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. I just want to make a comment before you make a comment, which I don't usually do. But one of the things we learned when we took Masters in Governance, and I'm going to use the riddle that they used in Masters in Governance, and the riddle is, how many board members does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is none, because it's not the board member's job. It's the board member's job to say, let there be light. And it's the staff's job to figure out how to make that happen. So I think that's analogous to this. I think it's our job to say, yes, we want 5th grade curriculum in human growth. Yes, we want the 2 curriculum. And yes, we want parent choice in both curriculum and in an opt-out. Then I think it's the staff's job to figure out how do we collect the data from the parents about what their choices are. Now, if they don't do that well and we don't like it, then we evaluate the superintendent on that because that's his job, it's not ours. So having said that, is there any more discussion?
I have two questions about the form, and how would they indicate opt-out full and opt-out partial on the form? Is there another form selection higher up?
So the process for opt-out is to write a letter to the school principal or an email, and that's what the process has been for other grades and other years. And so we'll clarify that the best way to do that is not by checking off a form, because we really need to get that level of detail. Are we opting out of all, or which ones? And it's best done through an exchange with the principal and the family to make sure we're not having any misunderstandings. So we will clarify that if a parent wants to opt out, then they communicate directly with their school principal, who can make sure they're getting exactly what they want for their child.
My understanding is that's the mandate. That's how it has to be, so that we're not forcing anything that parents are told, if you want to opt out, you need to tell the principal directly, right? So so we're just following the law with that one. That's not something we just made up.
So the checkbox opt-out is not a legally permissible option.
Exactly.
Okay,
Correct.
great.
Yeah, you can't force them to do that, is basically it, yeah.
All right. A second question, I guess, is around the no preference choice. And I guess my question comes from, I've been a district parent for, I don't know, 8, 9 years, and I don't think I've ever gotten a form from the district that had a no preference, right? You buy your own iPad or you get one from the school. You go on the field trip or you stay in the AMP room to watch a movie. So I'd like to understand a bit more about the thinking behind having, for this particular case, is no preference. Because I thought when we talked previously that it was a desirable outcome to collect as much input as we can. And so it seems like having that option there would, I guess I just like to understand more. I won't spend 5 minutes on this one.
Okay, you promise?
Yes.
Then I'll answer that one, and I'll let Allison do the same. I mean, the bottom line is that not everybody, I mean, we did get some 800 parents come to our nights and everything, and that's fantastic. And at our schools, we do work really hard to make sure every parent knows and understands the choice, but not all of them do. And so what are they supposed to do? They don't have the information they need to say, oh, I want PT. I don't even know, right? And for a lot of parents, the reality is, I trust the district, and I don't know, so yes, I'm fine with either one. That's its intent, is simply because what we don't want to do is leave it where they do nothing, because, right? That's what we're trying to avoid, because we want every child to get this curriculum. So I mean, that's why it's there. It's real simple. We know that there will not be 100% of the parents who opt for a specific one. There just won't be.
So would you see this for other things like field trips, to say basically there's a no preference and then the school decides whether you go on the field trip or not? Or it seems like there's a...
I want to clarify, there's something wildly different about field trips,
Okay.
which is not a curriculum. It's a part of the learning experience.
Sure.
HGD, we shouldn't avoid the reality that this is the oddest, rarest kind of curriculum thing you've ever seen. You've never seen a supplemental curriculum that is not mandated, that you were treating like it's actually a core curriculum, going through the same processes of adoption when it's actually a secondary thing, right? And it's mandated that if you do it, it has to be done in a certain way. You don't have anything else like it. It doesn't relate to field trips. It doesn't relate to math, language arts. There's no other one like it. It's true. That's the law. Okay. So we're working within this crazy law that says, oh, you can't make them opt in. You can't, there's so many different things. So we're trying to make something work that makes sense. And that's how we have developed this thing, right? And I do, as Phyllis was saying, at some level, I think you need to trust us a little bit, that as staff, we have really thought through the laws, the regulations, the oddity of it all, what parents have had to say. People feel differently. Staff feel differently. We're trying to work so many different angles, but we've come to a place where, you know what, we have a great way of doing it. It's about choice. 2 curricula that the committee said, they're both pretty darn good. It's okay, it's going to work, and we think we can get just about every, if not get every single student to do it.
Sure, sure. And I don't want you to mistaken the fact that I ask questions as a sign I don't trust staff.
No, I know.
I just want to make that clear because I feel like I'm here representing some part of the community. I think these are questions that have come up in the community. So I just want to
Right.
make that
I know that.
distinction
Yes.
clear. If I don't trust on something, I will let you know. This isn't one of them. I'm sure Allison at this point must be dreaming about the pages in the curriculum by now, all the times you spent on that.
Yeah.
Just one other question then on a different topic on monitoring. Will you be also collecting information on how many no preferences we get? We've listed PPP, PPT, partial opt-out and full opt-out. There will be one also for how many no preferences we get?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. I can clarify that on our list here.
Yes.
Yes. And it's actually come up quite a bit in the parent information sessions, just people saying, gosh, to me, I feel like they're pretty much the same. And that's a perspective that some people have. So, we may have some people in that category. We're not sure. I've told them, we are ready. Whatever your choices are, we think we can do it, other than selecting lesson by lesson, of course, between the two. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing this. I think we talked about wanting to have data-driven processes in our strategic plan and such. And so I think this is a part of that. So, yeah.
And I also think we've done a really good job of responding to the community's questions and concerns. We had lots of people here to speak at lots of meetings, and we have no one here tonight. So I think that speaks to a pretty good process. Now I know, Lori, you had something.
So my only, I guess it's more of a clarifying question. At one point we had talked about having some information maybe up on a website, and I know you were referring to the table that kind of went lesson by lesson of what topics are covered on which days, which I see as more helpful if you're talking about somebody who wants to maybe partially opt out of a specific lesson to know what day that's being offered on. But at one point we had talked about, and I think in one of your presentations, there was a table that sort of talked a little bit more maybe about the style of the two and sort of the way that they're presented and the way that the material is handled. And I know that when I was attending both of the info sessions, there were parents that, as you said, commented like, wow, these are really similar. I don't know how I'm going to choose between the two. I can imagine if you haven't had the opportunity to do that sitting at home, and it would be nice to have some sort of info, not just on the topics maybe that are covered, but maybe if there's anything that the publisher themselves has to say and owns about how they present that material, maybe that we can provide a very simple compare and contrast of some sort.
So I can think about that. One of the challenges that I've noticed just in getting to have this opportunity to go to all the parent sessions and hear from them is that everyone brings their own personal lens to that moment, right? What's important about what's the same and what's different is really personal to each family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't want to set it up to state that we are identifying all the differences and similarities, because I don't think it's quite as simple as that, right? Because of the values that each person brings to that decision. And so I have been in the sessions letting people know the basic content is pretty much the same, and that's reflected in the chart, but at a very basic level, as we've been saying, PPP, the delivery format is primarily PowerPoint, teacher talking.
You're hitting on exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And Puberty Talk primarily is discussion, games, activities. So that's pretty much as far as I think we should go, just because we really want to live out that choice model, knowing that each person's choice is personal to them. So the principals have some additional information that we dug into that a little more in the principal session, so that if parents really wanted to address the thing about the curriculum that was most important to them, they could talk with their principal, and the principal would be prepared with some additional information regarding that specific topic that's important to that family. And I'm feeling like that would be the best way to approach it, so that each person feels that we're really honoring what they're bringing with their question.
But so like in your comparison table, is what you just said there, is there some mention of one is maybe slides and worksheets, and one is more of a how did you just describe it?
Like more discussions,
discussion
activities, games.
and interaction.
I don't think it is, but we could add that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my only feedback.
Great.
Okay, anything else, Satish?
Yeah, I have, Kim. I will not take 5 minutes even.
Promise?
Okay. So good thing is actually I like the revised format. This is one of the concerns which I had because it felt that it is a little bit of prioritized version of it, and especially being the no preference in the first, I was not very happy with. But I think the revised looks pretty good. Thank you for that. One question is like if some parent do not, they don't return it, you consider, or would you be following up for making them to make a choice, or you just assume it's no preference?
Right, so we will have a separate form for each school, and we will be setting it up and then sharing that with the principal, and the principal will be monitoring the responses as they come in and working with the teachers. And just like, any other process at school, they will know at the school sites who has not returned it, and they'll be reaching out and making those next steps to get a response. And we think that will be very effective. And we don't expect that we'll have very many people that won't respond after multiple reach outs from their principal and their teacher. And that's one of the reasons why we want to try to maximize conference time. So we feel confident that we'll be able to get a response from almost all, if not all, parents with those communication channels that naturally happen at the school site. So we would specify in the letter, if we don't hear from them after many, many, many times of reaching out, then we do by law have to place the student in a course, because we can't assume opt-out. Every student is opt-in unless the parent opts out. That's the law. So we would, as we discussed at the last meeting, either assign to wherever that child's classroom teacher was teaching, or where space was available, depending on which courses are being taught and all of that. So
Yeah. It's a strange nuance because ultimately it looks like they're opting in by filling out our form, but they're not. All they're doing is making a choice. Right, and it's a weird thing because we can't set it up as you have to make a choice as to whether you do or don't want to do it. But because we have two curricula, how do we know what to teach them unless we ask them, so which one do you want? But that's different from making them bubble in something that says, I don't want to do it. And the law says, if you don't want to do it, you have to tell the principal that. That's just the way it is.
Okay, so the opting out parents need not or will not return this, right? This form.
correct, and we'll specify that in the email that will come before the form, as well as in the one that includes the form. Yeah. And then, we'll just keep reinforcing that. We have been telling them that all along, the way too. So we'll make sure everybody knows, if we're not hearing from them, that we're following up. And we have an opt-out paragraph that we use also for 7th grade that really clarifies exactly, if you want to opt out, this is what you need to do.
Okay. And the last one is, what's the timeline when we are going to do this? Is it immediately or towards the curriculum start? When is that this communication going to go, and when do you make the numbers and decisions and everything?
Right. So I'm hoping if we are ready with your action tonight, then I can get my communication going as soon as possible with Leslie and Pam. We have to get it all geared up, but hopefully that would be starting next week. And then that way we could hit that conference time where parents would be receiving the form right around that time. We're collecting from the sites when they plan to teach these lessons, and we're still getting that information from some sites, but most of them it's into the spring. So we have a nice long window of time. So we're hoping collect it in October. As soon as we get it all in by hopefully mid-October, we'll be able to assign the teachers to courses. The teachers will select their training dates, and we'll be set and ready to go, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the right time, because I think this is the right time now, most informed time. Right. People just attended all this. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I had a couple things. So for the program monitoring, I was wondering about in terms of asking parents prior to the curriculum, prior to their child going through the curriculum, if it's possible to almost like a pre-test, post-test kind of scenario, like where you ask them before the curriculum, like, have you ever talked to your child about these kinds of things, these topics, right? Whatever those 6 topics are or 5 topics are, and then, get a sense some information that would be helpful, I guess, to the teacher, to the principal, or to you guys, to understanding where our community is at in terms of, are these conversations already happening in the home or not happening in the home, and just to provide some context, I think, for us as we're making those decisions, and then maybe the post test is what I'm calling it, but like the afterward, the survey, then one of those questions, like, do parents feel prepared to have these conversations now, right? So it'd be kind of I would be interested in seeing that information, like, the before the curriculum and after the curriculum, and then more about maybe why the parent made whatever choice they made. Like, for example, if the parent said, I don't have a preference, and I know it's not in as we listed it right now, but like if it's because, oh, I just went with whatever my child's friend went with, or I just wanted my child to stay with their teacher, it didn't really matter, just kind of getting some motivations so that we have an understanding of what are the motivations for choosing a particular curriculum.
Is it possible that we can continue to look at measures and talk about that offline? Because it just occurs to me that, our goal has been, can we tonight try to focus on, we're really here to see, can we adopt the curriculum, right? And the question of the monitoring, I actually think is a little bit different and doesn't influence at this point, it probably did earlier, whether we're going to adopt it or not. Because there's just so much that we've been working on with this and so many things we got to get going that for me, I'm happy to have those conversations and talk some more and see if there's ways of changing it a bit here and there. But maybe for tonight, that's not as relevant to trying to adopt the two curricula, if I can put that out there.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Are we ready to vote?
Did you have another one? Sorry.
Did you have another one, Sylvia?
No, those were my two.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor to adopt instructional materials for grades 5, human growth and development. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Excellent.
Now,
Thank you, everybody.
more work begins, Allison. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Moving on to action, approval of appointments to the Measure H Citizens Model Oversight Committee. We need a motion here before we discuss.
I move to approve the staff recommendation on the appointment.
And is there a second? Okay. Any discussion, questions?
Can we get a little bit of background on the appointment, the candidate being appointed?
Actually, he's joining us tonight too. So if this fulfills our slate, we have every position we're supposed to have filled. It filled the last spot that we have was for the Taxpayer Association, and he represents it. So we thank him for signing in for it. He doesn't know what he signed up for yet. But
Stand up so we can see who you are. Hi, welcome.
And thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor of the approvals? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Welcome. Okay, moving along to board and superintendent activity. Would somebody like to start?
I can start. So let's see, site visits we've all been doing. As far as activity, so I did attend the teacher housing town hall down at the Santa Clara County Office of Education on September 17th. It was moderated by County Supervisor Joe Simidian and was specifically regional housing and teacher housing experts from both local agencies and the tech sector. It was a very lively panel discussion, and they had a lot of good things to say about the importance of teacher housing in our community, and sort of it's a regional problem that's going to take a regional solution. Let's see here. Budget advisory, we both attended last week, and the first meeting, I guess we can both report out on it, but largely just sort of talking about the needs of the membership and sort of what people are hoping, what conversations people are hoping to have, and what we hope comes out of it for the year, as well as discussing the timeline of the different points at which budget advisory will have to sort of weigh in to help further us along as far as our budget goes this year. And then I attended last night the Santa Clara County School Boards Association as our rep for that. A couple things came up. The speaker for the night was a retired sheriff, and the focus was on sort of youth and involvement, with negative behaviors and the consequences of the law. They talked a lot about the shift from sort of the era of zero tolerance towards more of this shift of restorative justice, and that really requires an intense partnership between school districts and law enforcement agencies and district attorneys' offices, et cetera. But that is, overall showing that that's good for kids. Both the Santa Clara County School Boards Association president as well as our county board president asked all districts to make sure that they've passed a full and fair funding resolution and that it's up to date. So Dr. Baker, could you check on that for us, that we've got our full and fair funding resolution and that the county has a copy of it? Because that's going to be a big push by both CSBA as well as the California County School Boards Association in 2020, they said. And then last thing, Dr. Dewan, our county superintendent, had sent packets for everybody. There's a series of books that the county puts out called Potter the Otter. Last year's was Potter the Otter Goes to Kindergarten. This year's is Potter the Otter Eats School Meals. And so I brought a copy, and I will make sure
To give
you
one to
guys,
Jerry?
I will make sure you guys get it for the Wellness Committee. As something to consider as a resource that the county has for us. So that is it on activity.
Okay, Jerry, you want to go next?
Yeah, this Potter the Otter thing reminded me of a story. I met someone at a party who had just moved here from Washington, D.C., and so they spend $22,000 a year per student in the district. It's the kind of place where even in elementary school, they go through a metal detector to get into the school. And so they came here to CUSD. I guess this was middle school. So the students at Lawson now, and they're saying how much better the food is here versus the $22,000 a year district. So, there's Part of the Otter, I guess you'll
Eat school meal.
That's right, yes. Yeah, I think the only thing I really have to share is Satish and I had last Friday, I think, or last Thursday, the 2x2 with Cupertino. So we had Dr. Baker, Jeff, and Leslie there. It was a very good meeting. We had Vice Mayor Liang Chow and Council Member John Woolley with the Assistant City Manager, Diane Thompson, thank you. And so I think the outcome of that is we agreed to work on two areas. One is basically better sort of joint collaboration on how we can monetize some of our assets, and then looking at how we can work together on sort of some of these enrichment programs. And I think Dr. Baker will go off and work with his counterpart, the city manager, to come up with some proposals and come back to the committee in about 4 to 6 weeks probably, and then we'll probably bring something back to this group here if we have anything after that. So, thank you.
Okay, Satish.
Okay, I had a school visit at Lawson. It was pretty good, an hour meeting, and really it was nice. Like even live classes, I went around, and math, science, music, and so on. It was pretty good, and that is one. And 2x2, we already said. I met a bunch of parents and community people. They all said that all 4 of you are doing a good job except me. So, so anyway, yeah, but a lot of work to do. And some of the things what I got the feedback I shared with Dr. Baker also. Like, and I think we have an active community. That's good. Actually, they all are on that. And I think one more thing I did. I met a parent who moved to this CUSD, and actually he went directly. He clicked on me and he wanted to meet me, and which school to choose and so on. And a difficult question: which school is the best in this thing? So anyway, so some of the interesting things happened in last 2 weeks. I think one more I had, I forgotten what it was, but pretty much.
Good, thank you. Sylvia?
I had school visits as well, so.
Okay. And I had my swan song with Budget Advisory. Thank you, Jerry. You're going to be the new member coming aboard, so it's a great committee. You'll enjoy it. We had our campaign committee meeting this week. We're keeping the campaign alive for the parcel tax, even though we still have to pass another resolution because of the date change, but that will be coming along. So that's moving along. I attended 2 human growth and development presentations, and kudos to Allison and her group. I thought they were very, very well done. And just a reminder to all of us that we have the Toyokawa barbecue tomorrow night, and then we have the Toyokawa luncheon on Monday. And then Lori and I are meeting with the union presidents next Wednesday. So this is our fall meeting with them. So that should go well. And then I will be meeting with Saratoga. Saratoga does it a little bit different than what the rest of you are doing with the 2x2s. They do one meeting a year with all of the schools that are that serve Saratoga kids and the city council, and usually law enforcement is there. And I imagine, Leslie, you'll probably be there with me. Yeah, right. So we have 2 principals in Saratoga, so that's coming up before our next meeting as well. Craig?
Nothing to add.
Okay, we're gonna get you out of here on time, guys.
You did it.
All right. Okay, so we're ready to go to agenda setting. Anything that we want on the agenda, Lori?
I have one. So I would like us to have a conversation on, we had some speakers, public comment tonight, around our policies, I guess, regarding weed control and the use of glyphosate. And I'm going to follow the pattern you've used for us, Dr. Baker, and talk about what I'd be happy if came with that agenda item. I'd love to see it be a discussion, info and discussion item. I'd love to see some examples of what action other local districts have taken. I know they referred to some tonight, but as I was reading up on this week and sort of educating myself, the entire UC system, all 10 campuses have banned glyphosate. The East Bay Regional Park System has already banned it, and that's the largest regional park system in the nation. So there's lots of good local examples that would be great to look at and on what action people have taken. And then I'd also be happy if that discussion included some examples of policy we might be able to discuss together to adopt non-toxic methods for managing weeds on all district property. And I'd love if that can include both the sites that we are managing ourselves, as well as our leased fields and parks, just to promote the safety of children in our community.
Okay, anyone else have an agenda that they would like to see come before us? All right. We're good to go?
I think so.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Everybody?
All right.
Golly.